Hello, I'm back. 1 second. Righty. How have you guys been? Sorry I've been out air for a while, but I've been doing a lot of things. Like I say, I have my business here, and me and my wife still got to wrap a few things up. We did get approved for our green card. We went to the meeting, and that was, it's a little stressful, but you know, thank God we had a good guy um, who didn't ask a lot of questions. And the few questions he did ask, it was kind of funny because, he was asking questions like, he asked my wife, do you plan on committing monogamy while you're in the United States? And she was like, uh, yes. So we had to explain to her what monogamy was, or no, what is it called? Polygamy, monogamy, when you have more than one wife or husbands or whatever. Stuff like that. The guy originally came out, I think he had a pretty thick accent from some African continent. And he didn't really smile or anything like that. He seemed like he was going to be mean, but actually he was great. He didn't ask hardly nothing. They had one question on the form that he had that was wrong, and he did have us correct that. Um, yeah, and he told us right away that we were approved. So, it only took about, I'd say 6, 7 months to get that. So yeah, we have the well, actually work permit, and now we waiting for the green card to come through the mail. But we've been approved. The only thing we didn't apply for was the travel visa yet. I didn't want to spend the money yet, but I will do that. Yeah. Also, I went through a company called Filipina Visa, which they charge about $3,500, um, but they do take you through the whole process. You make it do better. You make it do better as far as how much money you spend. But I went with them. You know, um, when I went to the green card thing, they had a lot of lawyers there with the clients. Um, we didn't have that, but Filipino Visa filled out all our paperwork for us. They looked it over. They helped us with the whole process. Like I said, they're not cheap, but I wanted to make sure it got done right the first time, and everything did go through right the first time. We just had um, little problems with because of COVID, and everything was backed up. Things were taking a long time, and um, when we was trying to get our appointment to get out of the country, that was really difficult. We had to go online and help out the process, to get that appointment because they would go and they would be going so fast. I mean, in a few minutes. So we had to, and they let us, go online and help them out to try to get that done. Else, I don't know how long this would have took. So everything was taking long because of the backlogs. Okay, so um, when I finally, when I first went down there, um, I forgot to tell you. Oh, the family met me at the airport, and they had a nice little welcome. They had a welcome sign and everything, big old sign. And I met the family, and we went back to actually to a whole to their house. I believe it was their house. Yeah, we went back to the house and spent a little time there, and then I took them out for dinner, which is appropriate. You take the family out to dinner, or whoever they invite, that's fine. Just take them. You won't be out of that much money, and hopefully the mom and the dad is still alive. You take them and spend that little time with them, let them get to know you, and I would spend most of the day there. That's appropriate and seen as a sign of respect. Okay, you don't have to, you know, After that, you pretty much done your job. Um, you might want to do it again when you leaving out, you know, when you decide to go wherever you and her are going to go. It's up to you. Um, but yeah, that's very important to the family. And you want to start off right. If you know, and it's good for you to meet the family so you can see, you know, hopefully you've met them before over the internet, even if they don't speak good English. Uh, it'll work out. You'll get a little sense of what's going on there. Okay. Let's see here. One second. So, okay. Um, Now, like if your fiance is working, that's a good sign. Very good sign. Because, she's working. It's not even easy to get a job. That's just, anyone who work hard for that little money is a good sign, you know. So, but the backdraw to that is that they won't have a lot of time to talk to you. But because of the time difference, you should be able to get a little conversation in almost every day, a little. Um, but that is going to play, into your time. But, like I said, because of the time difference, you know, you should be able to get a little time in every day if you like that person. Um, like when you first start talking, you might want to look around a little bit, but you'll be able to tell pretty quick on some of these, especially like I think we were on Cupid, Filipina Cupid. A lot of those girls ask you for stuff the first day, which I appreciate that because now I know where you're coming from. So, I don't be rude to them or nothing like that. Uh, some of them be kind of funny, you know what I mean? So, but you want to get past them until the ones that um, a little more smarter or genuine. When I say smarter, then you got the other type that will not ask you for money right away. They'll ask you for something not too long, okay? And then you have to pay attention because you're starting to get into the more sophisticated scammers or the more genuine. They shouldn't really be asking you. If something comes up and you got a feeling or they'll prove it to you or something like that, you know, maybe you might consider doing a little something. Uh, I had one girl, she said she needed to go to the doctor. She showed me all these splotches on her face. I gave her a little money, I don't know, $40, $50. And the next time I talked to her, she wouldn't even bring it up. She didn't even bring it up. So, it was stuff like that and just other stuff, something's not right. And, I had to cut her loose. And I didn't stay with her long, maybe a month or something like that. But she had that down pat, I love you, no, 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 just all kinds of stuff. But I even checked; she was still online at the Filipino Cupid. Okay, so because you can see who's still online when you're off, you know. So she really didn't want to break up, but I just knew she wasn't right. I don't care how she was nice looking, and that's when I met my fiance. Right, so. And even after we talked, I was talking to still maybe about 5 or 6 people, and and at one point I checked and she was online, and so I said, so I got upset. I said, oh no, that's it, it's over. And she says, oh yeah, I had 10 friends. They called me still. They called me still, and I had people still. I was never did cut everybody off, but that's who I was really talking to. So I was upset. And then she's cut all those guys off, and so I did. And then I couldn't be too upset because I understood, you had to kind of form a little talking relationship with these people, and our relationship was pretty new. But at that point, I did cut all mine off because, you can't be talking to all these people at one time, trying to remember this, trying to remember that. We just got through talking about that uh, when we were at that phase. And like I said, when I started talking to her, things were so natural. It was so natural. I didn't uh, try to go fast or anything like that. Like some of these guys, they call down there and in no time they want to see you naked, or the girls want to show you something naked, and you send them the money and all. This was so natural. We didn't go through none of that. Um, we just had natural conversations, and even though sometimes I couldn't understand everything she said, it was her disposition, and she kept me company, you know, and we just smiled through it all. And she had a nice singing voice, and I would working at driving Uber, eats food around, and so she would keep me company at nighttime. We spend an hour or two, sometimes three, every day, just while she's at work. Cause I would like I said, I was blessed. She was working all by herself in a box, so she kept me company. I kept her company, and yeah, it helped pass the time. Think about it, a year and a half before I even met her, and we talked almost every day. And yeah, and then when I finally did go down there to see her, oh my gosh, she was so beautiful. And I mean, actually, I think I got her family a room. Uh, they all stayed in one room, and me and her had a room, and I had a great time. Okay, let's see. All right, so now if it's this place that if you decide you want to go down there and retire, uh, Dumaguete is probably a good spot for you. You know, you don't want to be too close to the family. I mean, just being honest. Um, but if you do want to retire there, that's a good start. They got a lot of expats there in Dumaguete, and everything's really reasonable there. You know, that's that's probably the best start, or at least you want to check it out. You want to stay down there at least a month or something like that, just to see if you like that. Because other places, well, they got a lot of places, but you got a lot of expats there, so you might feel more at home there, and it's like I said, real reasonable. It's become quite a retirement spot for expats, and then you got a lot of people that'll be from different countries in your country. You know, you might want to look into that on the internet. Do Magedi. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit more about when I first took my fiance back to Manila, I believe it was. Yeah, because our hotel was there. So took her there and to a nice hotel, and we went in swimming pools. A lot of things she never did. She never been to Manila. She never been to a nice hotel like that. So we went swimming, and it was so cold. Oh my gosh, it was so cold. And I didn't care. I mean, I had a lot of energy being around her. And to tell you a quick story, there was a boy that almost drowned while we were there. And she went over there to save that boy, but her mom went over there and got him. But after that, she kind of was in a bad state. And I asked her, what's the problem? And she told me that she was a survivor. And come to find out, she had the papers to prove it. She had been in a Titanic type situation where the ship had went down, got hit by a barge, and it was like a four-story ship. She said she had a dream, you know, about Jesus or something, and it woke her up. I told her to wake up, and that ship was going down, and people were fighting over life vests and everything. And I said, well, did you What'd you do? She said she didn't fight. She called her mom and said, if you don't hear from me, this is what happened. And so they prayed. And so she said some guy came and gave her a life vest. So she got a life vest, and they all eventually had to go in that water. Some of the people stayed on the boats. A lot of people died in the water on the boat. And she saw them dying. She stayed in that water from 9 o'clock at night to 3 in the morning. And she was traumatized. She was trying to go to Manila to start her life off, and um, this kind of set her back. And for her troubles, I think they gave her $100. $100. So, Philippines have its downsides. They have their good sides, but they have the downsides. I mean, we would have probably each received $1 million at least, you know, for being traumatized like that. And that kind of sent her back home, you know, just sent her back home. She took a lot out of her, I'm sure. Um, but anyway, that was on our first date, you know, and I had asked God for a sign, and to me, that was a sign. That was a sign to me because all the time I talked to her for a year and a half, she did not even mention that at all, but she had the papers to prove it that day. And I don't know. I don't really believe in coincidences myself, you know. I choose not to believe in those. I think that sometimes we just don't see what God has put, what's doing. Sometimes you got to wait and sit back so you can get an idea of what's really going on with things. Pay attention and, see why things are happening to you. You might not see right away. Might take some time. So anyway, yeah, that was pretty deep. So I started calling her Rose, and she was calling me Jack. And I actually, when I got her engagement ring, I didn't tell her what it was. I said, I got something for you. She said, give me a hint. And I said, Rose. Rose. I said, yeah, because it was a rose engagement ring, rose gold. So she never could guess that, but that really sent her mind spinning, trying to figure out what Rose have to do with what gift I got her. So yeah, I went down there after a year and a half, and then every 6 months after that. So the second time I went, I think we got engaged because it was like 2 years. Let's see, about 2 years by that time, and we've been speaking every single day. So we went to Bahal, which was nice. They got a place down there called Chocolate Mountains, or something like that. And we went saw the Chocolate Mountains, and they have these little things that look like little monkeys, but they're only about this big, and they kind of got wings. So we got pictures of that stuff, and well, we had a good time, man. We got engaged. We went to another place. I believe it was in Bahal. Uh, we were right on the beach. That was nice too. Um, the hotel wasn't as nice as I wanted it to be, but for the engagement, but you know, it was all right. It was all right. So yeah, that was the second time down there, and then I think a total of 6 times I actually wound up going down there because I had to go every 6 months. I had to put in for the visa. That took a while. I had to get a lot of things straight on my end. So it wound up being 3 years and a half before I could go down there and get her. You know, um, and I met her in Manila. I stayed there a month trying to get her through her interview because I hadn't made up my mind. You know, she was coming back with me. You know, as soon as she passed that interview. So, and that was cool because we got a room. Her mom actually came out. Her sister came out. You know, so it was like 4 of us. And man, that's great family. great family. I love my family. Um, we had a good time. I really, really like our mom. Um, yeah, so we stayed there a month, and I think I got them. Uh, uh, I got them a room because they didn't stay with us all the time. I'm trying to remember. It seemed like they did stay with us. Yeah, they did stay with us because one sister left and the other one came. So it was three of us mostly at one time. Our brother even showed up for a day because he works at the airport. So he just came and showed up for a day. Uh, he's real cool, man. That dude can sing. Oh my gosh. He play the guitar. You know. Oh man. And when I went down there the first time, I'm 6'1". Um, we went to when we was on the island, and I kind of felt tall down there, and went to the store, and I was standing kind of over this little girl, and she looked up. She looked up at me like, and I'm like, wow, I never felt that tall in my life. And she kept staring. She kept staring, and I noticed I was taller than everybody, on the island. They're kind of a little more shorter. But man, I felt like 7 feet tall, The girl was across the store and still looking at me. So yeah, if you're over 6 feet, you know, you're tall. So over there, you're like a giant, you know. Um, if you are African American, they do have a little stigma there about that. They think that my fiance told me they think that we are sadistic. We like to beat women and have sex with them. I don't know where that came from. Black men have got a pretty bad rap all over the world, but that one was kind of disturbing because I told her, we got a lot of issues, but that ain't one. We got more white men that are sadistic than black men. I'm sure of that. Um, but no, that's not true. You know, so well, her father, he's dark skinned. He's a dark skinned Filipina. Uh, the last time before I came and got her, though, I met her. I took their father, and a few people showed up when I was leaving. One of those time before last, and I took them to dinner, and I remember thinking, all these people, they showing up. It wasn't that many. There was the father. It was this other guy. Um, he had kidney disease too. He was a young guy, really young guy, and his son. And I think I had bought my fiance a hat, and he begged her out of that hat. I was a little upset about that. And she wound up giving the man a hat, and he was going through a lot. He had his son, and he didn't have a girl. And, she left him with the boy because he got sick. And the father was there, and I think a brother showed up, and I was a little kind of put back because so many people or whatever. And do you know, a month later, her father died, and the boy died. The both with the kidney disease, and I felt like crap, man. I felt like crap. I was so glad she gave that guy that hat, and the way that I acted in my mind, you know, it was just all wrong, man. You know, you find a good family, you pray on it. You don't have to go out your way to do too much. If you can do a little something, do it, man. Just don't. You don't have to go crazy. You know what I mean? That little stuff means a lot to them. So, and they are very independent. They try to do what they got to do. You know, uh, I won't worry about that. But yeah, that was pretty deep. And I was thinking it was the last time I saw both of them. You know, and to this day, the young dude, his name was Jefferson. Um, when I see his son, because now he has no one, so the other family has to kind of take care of him. I got a special place in my heart for him. You know, I'll bring him something. You know, because he's a kid, man, and he don't have his mom or his dad. You know, so yeah, I think I'm at 25 minutes, and I'm ready to get something to eat. But I got more for you, a lot more for you. You know, you see the thumbnail. That's my wife. You know, and as soon as I figure out, I'll throw a few videos up so you can see how we interact. You know, we go to places, we do things. Like I said, I've been blessed. I can stay here in my country, my condo. I only had to pay like $300 and something a month. You know, I bought it back when it was 11,000, which you know I've been blessed, man. You know, so you know, on my car note, I don't have one. You know, I don't have one. I paid that off, so I keep my expenses low. You know, so well, stay blessed, and we'll be talking. You know, go ahead and subscribe, put some comments in, give me some encouragement. I got some good stuff for you, man. I got some good stuff for you and your friends. Okay, I'll talk to you.